to DadMode, God, Grit, and Goals. I'm your host, Mike Tobias. I'm excited to share something with you today. I actually did this morning. I was out with a group of men and their sons, and I was with my son and my grandson, and we read the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And I actually wanted to read that to you today. It might be something that you've read with your kid, but as an adult, this is an amazing book. And it just really talks about life's journey and faith, resilience and grit, and making choices with God in mind. So here we go. Congratulations. Today's your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know. And you are the guy who will decide where to go. You'll look up and down streets, look them over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. And you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there in the wide open air. Out there, things can happen and frequently do to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew. Just go right along. You'll start happening too. Oh, the places you'll go. You'll be on your way up. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar to high heights. You won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang and you'll soon take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be best of the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say, but sadly it's true, that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You can get all hung up in a prickly perch, and your gang will fly on, and you'll be left in a lurch. You'll come down from the lurch with an unpleasant bump, and the chances are that you'll be in a slump. And when you're in a slump, you're not in for much fun. Unslumping yourself is not easily done. You'll come to a place where the streets are not marked. Some windows are lighted, but mostly they're dark. A place you could sprain both your elbow and chin. Do you dare to stay out? Do you dare to go in? How much can you lose? How much can you win? And if you go in, should you turn left or right? Or right and 3/4? Or maybe not quite? Or go around back and sneak in from behind? Simple it's not, I'm afraid you will find, for a mind-maker-upper to make up his mind. You can get so confused that you'll start in to race down long wiggled roads at a breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across weirdish wild space, headed, I fear, for a most useless place, the waiting place. For people just waiting for a train to go, or a bus to come, or a plane to go, or the mail to come, or the rain to go, or the phone to ring, or the snow to snow, or waiting around for a yes or a no, or waiting for their hair to grow. Everyone is just waiting for the fish to bite, or waiting for wind to fly a kite, or waiting around for Friday night, or waiting, perhaps, for their Uncle Jake, or a pot to boil, or a better break, or a string of pearls, or a pair of pants, or a wig with curls, or another chance. Everyone is just waiting. No, that's not for you. Somehow you'll escape all that waiting and staying. You'll find the bright places where boom bands are playing. With banner flip-flapping, once more you'll ride high, ready for anything under the sky. Ready because you're that kind of guy. Oh, the places you'll go. There's fun to be done. There are points to be scored. There are games to be won. And the magical things you can do with the ball will make you the winningest winner of all. Fame. You'll be famous as famous can be, and the whole wide world watching you win on TV. Except when they don't, because sometimes they won't. I'm afraid that sometimes you'll play lonely games too. Games you can't win, because you'll play against you. all alone, whether you like it or not. Alone will be something you'll be quite a lot. And when you're alone, there's a very good chance you'll meet things that scare you right out of your pants. There are some down the road between hither and yon that can scare you so much you won't want to go on. But on you will go through the weather, though the weather be foul. On you will go, though your enemies prowl. On you will go through the hack and cracks howl. Onward up many a frightening creek, though your arms may get sore and your sneakers may leak. On and on you will hike, and I know you'll hike far and face up to your problems wherever they are. You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with many strange birds as you go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact, and remember that life's a great balancing act. Just never forget to be dexterous and deft, and never mix up your right foot with your left. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains. So, be your name Buxbaum or Bixby or Bray or Mordecai, Ali, Van Allen, O'Shea. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting. So get on your way. That's just brilliance. It's an incredible poem by Dr. Seuss, who wrote it. It was the last book. He wrote it when he was 72, I believe, and published in 1990. It's Wisdom of the Ages. As I was reading that, I'm sure you, and I hope you thought about your own life, like where I'm at, things you've overcome. And this leads me to a revelation that I had this week. I was listening to a podcast. Andrew Huberman had a guest on, and she was a great children's, what is she? She was a great children's psychiatrist. And she said something that really has struck a chord with me this week. And it is, what is our role as parents? What is it that we are, what's our job? And she framed it as simple, one of two things. Well, not one of two things, both things. One is that we are responsible for setting boundaries. And the other is that we are to help our children be safe. And setting boundaries, the way that she defined setting boundaries, is a boundary setting, by her definition, which was so different and so powerful, was that it requires nothing from anyone else. You set a boundary, that is your responsibility as a parent, and requires nothing of your child. So often we think we're setting a boundary and then we require something from our child. I'll give you an example. Let's say it's getting close to bedtime and you tell your child it's time to turn off the TV, because that's a boundary condition. But that's not a boundary. That's a request. You have requested your child to turn off the TV. And so therefore, by definition, it's not a boundary. So the way she turns it into a boundary is by stating something a little more simple. In 5 minutes, I'm going to turn off the TV. It would be great if you could turn it off. But I will be turning it off. And I will be taking the remote and turning off the TV. And that's just the way it is. There's nothing required of your child. And that might seem harsh, but it's actually very clear. So you're giving your child an opportunity to turn off the TV, and we hope they do. But you can see how there is no requirement of your child to do that. And we think about, well, our job is to train our child. And this is where we get into the safety part. And another, probably the greatest lesson I've learned this week in thinking about it is we are responsible to help our children not only be safe, but actually feel safe. And I think as men, we're more concerned about being safe than making them feel safe. And here's something to understand about your kid. They are emotional, very sophisticated emotionally. In other words, they have all of the emotions, and they feel them. Like, I just took my grandson to a wildlife park, and we were getting ready to see the giraffes, and I knew you can hand feed the giraffes, and it's awesome. And I said, you're going to hyperventilate, you're going to scream, you're going to want to do all this stuff, but those things will scare the giraffe. So I need you to be as calm as possible. So just kind of trying to set them up for success. And it was really about understanding these feelings. See, kids feel things deeply, but they don't know that their feelings, they're getting to know their feelings, let me put it that way. And we so often, we think we're helping them by actually ignoring their feelings. See, one of the things that you've learned to do as an adult is regulate your emotions. But kids don't know how to regulate their emotions. In fact, they don't even know what their emotions are. And I think as dads, we want our kids to downplay their emotions. We want them to be calm when things are chaotic. We want them to calm down. We want them to slow down. We want them to be quiet. Or we want them to, come on, let's go. We want to get them pumped up, right? But they're deep in their feelings, and they don't know whether their feelings are good or bad or right or wrong. They just know they're feeling them. And she taught a very simple thing, and that is to tell your child when you're to ask them about their feelings, what's going on right now. I'll give you a concrete example here. I actually used this. So, we were at this wildlife preserve, and there my grandson had his head poking out of the sunroof. We were getting ready to see the giraffes, and there were a couple of little girls. They were poking their heads out of the car behind us, and they were quite talkative. And they were trying to talk to him, and I said, well, answer him back. And he just cowered and said, I don't talk good to people. And I said, it's scary, isn't it? And he said, yeah. And I said, the magic words, I believe you. See, what we tend to say is, no, it's not. You can do it. It's not scary, right? But what we're telling him to do is ignore your feelings. But we haven't validated his feelings. And so as men, we actually have to validate their feelings. And this was so foreign to me, but it was such an eye-opener, because so much of what we do is try and get our kids to downplay their feelings. I remember one of my kids would cower in the corner when they were young, and it just pissed me off because it was a boy, and I was like, quit being a wimp. And I didn't acknowledge their feelings at all, right? And that was just, oh my gosh. See, when I told my grandson, I believe you, he looked at me, and what I was telling him and what he received was, that's a real feeling. I believe you. I believe it is scary. It's scary for me too. And and you can get through it, because Tobias does do hard things, right? It's just like we're on this adventure right now, and it was scary, but now we're in it. It's so much fun. So all of the fun and all of the adventure is pushing through the scary part, and you'll realize that if it's not scary, and then it's just boring. It's the same old. It's dull. So all new things are scary. And the excitement and the adventure is on the other side of that. And so we just push through that, and it's okay. That's what being brave is. right? And it was so crazy because just acknowledging that, because we've had this conversation many times, meeting strangers and all of that. And what do we say? Oh, he's just shy. It's like, no, he's cautious. He's concerned. He's figuring you out. He's appropriately discerning. These are all the characteristics that I want him to understand. And those are good qualities. But we push through that because there is the known and the unknown. The unknown can be scary. Oh, the places you'll go. And you push through, and that's where the adventure is. And it doesn't always work out, but sometimes it does. And so you can see, I believe you. It is scary, but you can do it. And in telling him that, boom, he popped up, he turned around, and he said hi. And he began a conversation. And for the next 15 minutes, it was just back and forth, he and a couple of new friends. And it was just amazing how quickly that worked. And so I just want to encourage you with that as a dad, one of your jobs is to help them understand that their emotions are real, that you believe them, that you have them too, and that you have learned how to regulate them, right? That's a big word for a little kid. But when you realize your maturity is your ability to regulate your own emotions. And think about the times that when we screw up as dads, right? Have you ever gotten angry at your child? And like, I blew my top. You see, that anger was not because of what your child did. That anger, it seems like it is. That anger is because something welled up inside of you. You're embarrassing me in front of these people. I am now embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. That might be one thing. You're making me late. These are all stories you're telling yourself. And what is your child doing? Your child is doing child things. It's never their fault when you get angry and lose control. When you have lost control, you're the adult. That's your fault. It's not their fault. And so what do we need to do? We need to apologize. Sorry I did that. You know, I'm still working on my emotions too. So anyway, look, this is super hard to do in the moment, but recognize that your job as a dad is to help your kids see that their emotions are real. They might be nervous. They might be scared. They might be overly excited. All of those things, but those are all new for them, and they don't have the skills to deal with them. And part of our job is to help them with those skills. So it's an awesome podcast. It's about 3.5 hours. I'm going to leave that in the notes. But I just want to share that to encourage you, and really get you to listen to this other podcast because it's incredible. Well worth it. It's going to give you lots of tools. But I hope this encouraged you today. You might be going through some challenges. You might have needed Dr. Seuss today to help you understand that perseverance and resilience, this is what we want to build in our sons and daughters. We want them to be resilient. What is resilience? Resilience is our ability to deal with the self-talk, the emotions that we carry with ourselves, the I don't want to do this. There's a gap between the here and now and the not yet. And we're living in this instant gratification world today with social media and with a video for everything and constant entertainment. When you think about really the first hard thing that we're asking our children to do now is probably read. Because up until then, everything's pretty much instant gratification. They can learn video games. They can watch anything they want instantly. they're in a world of entertainment. And the difficult things, learning to ride a bike, learning to fish, learning to read, these things take time. And kids don't want to take the time. But it's not just the kids. As adults, we get pissed off when the internet's not working. We get pissed off when a video starts buffering. We get pissed off when the phone doesn't work while we're in the elevator. It's like, oh my gosh, we are so quick to complain and get all wound up and bent out of shape for things not working. It's the resilience comes from dealing with disappointment. And not only do we need to be teaching our kids how to deal with disappointment, like I know this is a really hard book to read, but you're getting there, and you'll get there. You just gotta plow through it, right? You gotta learn the phonetics, spell it out. We're learning as adults still on dealing with frustration, that things aren't going as quickly as we want. A business deal isn't happening as fast as I want. I'm not getting the promotion that I want. Everything seems out of our control. Things go great until they don't. Oh, the places you'll go. So as we go through life, it's really important that we are making choices with God in mind. And I think this book does such a great job of just talking about the choices. You're going to make choices. And some of them are going to be good, and some of them aren't going to be so good. And some of them are going to be clear, and some of them not so clear. And you just don't know. And so our Christian values help us understand the path that we should take. And it's not just knowledge, because there's just knowledge doesn't, in and of itself, doesn't give you wisdom. Wisdom comes from God, and it comes from experience. I think this book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, is a metaphor for fatherhood. It serves as a guide for life's journey. And that's your job. You're a guide for your children, helping them navigate through life's challenges in wisdom and faith. And let them know that wisdom comes from experience. Wisdom comes from those who have been down the path that you're trying to go down, which is why it's really important that we have friends that are helping us and not friends that are dragging us off the wrong path. The Bible says to be wise and seek the counsel of the wise. And we need to do that as dads. And not only that, but this book dives into probably the most important thing, because it talks about other people, but he kind of leans in at the end about being alone. And you're going to be alone with yourself a lot. And this kind of goes along with those emotions. So this is one of the things that we did. So I'm older. Yep, we believed in capital punishment. And then we thought we were doing good because we believed in timeouts. And I'm not advocating for either of those, but when we think about emotional regulation and confirming your child's emotions, one of the things that I realized is when I was putting my kids on timeout, that I was just leaving them alone to be in their own heads without actually affirming their emotions, because it was all about behavior. You are misbehaving, but there's a reason you're misbehaving. There's a reason that you are pushing back so hard. There's a reason you're being shy, going back to that example. Or there's a reason that I'm angry, but because I'm telling myself a story. I'm tired. You just spilled your milk. and you're old enough to not do that. You weren't being careful. And so now you're going to go on timeout. You just hit your brother. You didn't apologize. So now you're going to go on timeout until you can come out and do that. It's like these things are, look, this is hard. It takes time. But I think one of the things that I'm learning, especially with younger kids, they don't have adult brains. They don't understand any of this stuff. They just know there's a flood of emotions that are happening inside of me, and that you are the person who I rely on to keep me safe and secure, and you just scared the crap out of me. And so now I'm lost, and now I'm in my room, and now I am just by myself with my emotions. And what happens when you're by yourself with your emotions, and the person that you trust the most has said, I don't believe you, I don't trust you, I don't want to be with you. Now is when all the self-condemnation occurs. I'm no good. Because let's face it, our children are not sophisticated enough to understand that my parents are mad at me. They must be having a bad day. Like, they're not thinking that. They don't have the capacity to think that. My parents are mad at me, therefore I must be bad. That's what they're left with. Thinking they're bad. And it's like, no, you're a good kid. You just had a bad moment. See, the thing I think we need to be telling ourselves as parents is, I'm a good parent, but I just had a bad moment. And you actually have to forgive yourself when you make those mistakes before you're actually ready to sit down with them and talk to them about saying, hey, I'm sorry, Dad screwed up. I shouldn't have yelled at you. And I got really upset. How did that feel? Did I scare you? I'm so sorry. I know Dad can be scary. He's got a big voice. And I want you to know you didn't do anything wrong to get Dad to do that. Dad was really frustrated. Dad got really upset. And Dad barked hard. And I'm so sorry that you were scared. And there's no but. But you shouldn't have done that. But you shouldn't have spilled your milk, or but you shouldn't have talked back, or any of that kind of stuff. It just needs to be that, right? So that you're affirming their emotions. So tell me what you think. This is what I took away. I'm sure you're going to have some questions. Feel free to write them down and comment. But I just want to encourage you today. Here, you could have screwed up. Fortunately, you got resilient kids. I didn't do this perfect. I'm still learning this at 62 as a grandfather. But we are emotional beings who use logic. We are not logical beings that have some emotions. And your kids are emotional, and you are emotional. And with those emotions is a story. And little kids' stories that they're telling themselves about these emotions are that they don't know. They're feeling these things full force for the first time, right? And what we tend to be doing is just denying them. No, you don't feel that way. We're saying it so subconsciously because we want them to overcome them, right? But you can't overcome what you don't fully understand. So what we need to be working on as dads is helping them understand them, empathize with them, and go, I get you. You got picked last for the team today. And we want to say, well, don't worry. There'll be another game. It's like, what did you do to affirm that feeling? Also, we're just wanting to move on. We want them to move on, right? Man, I've so convicted myself on that. That's what I want to do. I just want to ignore it. We're going to move on. I'm just going to teach you to move on. It's like, well, I'm not sure you actually understand what happened to me. Like, I got picked last. Oh, wow. Tell me about it. That's leaning in. Tell me about that. How'd that make you feel? Bad. Well, what did that make you think? Nobody likes me. Oh, wow. That is hard. I'm so sorry. You know, I'm not sure. That's happened to me before too. I believe you. That's a hard thing. So glad you shared that with me. How about we go get some ice cream? Right? It's like, oh my gosh, how different that is. We're wanting to correct, we're wanting to teach rather than just hear. This has so hit me between the eyes. So hopefully what I'm saying makes sense. Because what are we telling our kids when we say that? We want them to overcome. But first we need them to understand that they're not alone. You see, when I say I believe you, now it's like there's trust. I've built up a bond between my child and I. It's like my dad gets me. And isn't that what we want? Think about the relationship with your own dad for a second. Like, did he get you? Isn't that what you want? I want him to be in my corner. I want him to understand me. I want him to see me. I want to feel heard. I want to feel known. And here we are. It's like, I want my son to be better than I was. I want my son to not have to go through these things. And I want him to, it's like we think we're doing the right thing, but we're not seeing. We're not hearing. We're not diving in. So, talking to myself this week and recognizing where I came short. Hopefully this has helped you. All the places you'll go. I love you. Remember, God is good. Jesus has forgiven you. You are loved, and everything is possible.